All right. So, hey guys, I'll come in and say hi. So, here's my first interview video. How do we look? I've got Daniel here from Barking Irons, and Michael's in the background, so you may hear him with some comments every now and then. But our purpose here today is to talk about shirts and really helping amateurs like myself take especially our Barking Iron shirts and making them something that's their favorite shirt to wear because they look great. So what I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to let you be center stage, but what I wanted to ask is, how can an amateur like myself go in and make a shirt look good? What advice would you give? What should I look for when I'm designing a shirt?
Well, I would start off by saying you should think about balance. The shirt, like I said, is your canvas. So you've got the main stage here, and there are some off-center placements that you can think about. But the main thing I would worry about is whether your shirt is, whether your artwork is balanced, So are you floating your design in the middle like this one, or are you filling it out more, going from underarm to underarm? And then, vertical placement's important too. Do you want a chest print here? This is a traditional place to put a print. Or do you want something down here on the hem, This is a little bit more advanced, and I think the chest print could be, like I said, a little bit more traditional. And you can also put stuff on the back, Back left shoulder is a good place, back neck.
That's kind of like the tattoo space,
Yeah,
right? That back left shoulder is a little tattoo-y.
It's a little bit more of a modern interpretation of a t-shirt print, yeah. It's like getting into tattoo placement. But I wouldn't go crazy. I think that the basic stage, like I said, in the center of the shirt is really where, you want to put your message. Otherwise,
one of the reasons why, on that one as an example, one of the reasons, I do this kind of often now, so I chose this placement here because I liked how the V pointed down at it.
Yeah.
So the V gave that message, and if it got too big, it kind of felt like it wasn't pointing at it.
Yeah, so you're floating it here, and then, like I said, the center stage is the most important. I mean, you can try to ignore and try to be different, but the fact is, this is where your attention goes when you're wearing a sweatshirt or a jacket over a t-shirt or anything. This is the area that's visible. So any other placement is definitely subject to, being obscured by some, your ensemble, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I should explain, too, I put Spreadshirt on all of my shirts because it's my company, but because people ask me, where is this again? And I just put it right down there because it's easy for me to reference.
It's a nice placement for a little tag, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, but all Spreadshirt shirts don't have to have those on there. I get that question all the time, too. Does that have to have Spreadshirt on there?
So you can put your name down here.
Yeah, you could put your name. You could put your little, if you have a little signature or something like that.
Yeah, why not?
So, what do you think about when you think about, fonts? We talked about fonts earlier when you're designing.
Yeah, typography is a really interesting field. You can go a lot of ways with it. I was explaining that, based on your message or whatever you're putting on the shirt, you can choose a bold font or something a little bit more ornate, maybe something that hides the message a little bit. Some words you don't want to jump out, and maybe sometimes you want the words to really pop. So, if you're picking a message that you really want a lot of people to read and get in a split second, then you might want to go with something a little bit more open and a little bit more simple. And then if you want to get really fancy and ornate, then you have to recognize that maybe, it's not going to be immediately legible, but at the same time, it's all, for the art. It's,
actually what you brought up isn't related, what I'm going to show you now isn't related to the font, but it's a little bit of what you said before if you want something to jump out. When I did this shirt, I'm sorry, I should actually hold it up rather than... when I did this shirt, I thought about making the Never Underestimate bigger. So that's what kind of showed up, It pops, like you said, make this more bold. But I hadn't thought about making that bold, which I could have done as well.
You got to kind of think if you were like a newspaper and you wanted to print a headline, what are the resting words that, are going to grip your viewer first. How do you get this to jump off the shirt, or do you want it to jump off? Maybe there's some words you want to play down. So you just do that. Yeah, you could do that with font size or bold or underline.
Yeah, well, and play down. So this is what I did on the hoodie, which, by the way, I was explaining to Daniel is I had to wrestle this away from my husband this morning because he loves, this is his favorite hoodie. This is one of our Barking Irons hoodies, which is the naval.
The naval
right?
hoodie, yeah.
Naval hoodie, and it's beautiful. And this is, I got to brag on them for a minute. If you look at things like their the attention to detail that they have. From the cuffs, when did you see a hoodie with cuffs like this?
Yeah, these cuffs are great.
Right?
You can roll them, roll them back, and then you have the crotch notch here.
The crotch notch and the to bring attention there,
right?
Because you always need that in the pockets.
Right.
But also, I mean, you guys with your tags and everything, like you have old timey little safety pins.
Oh yeah. We try to get it's authenticity, but everything comes from here in New York on the Bowery, and these little artifacts are often what's precious to customers. You buy something and you want the whole package to be the identity of the brand, and that's kind of where we were going with the pins and the tags. Yeah, the tags are like little fireman emblems. Yeah. Yeah,
you're good at going all the way through with that, which I think is great. But anyway, so on my I can tell you're obsessive about it, which I love. I love that kind of stuff. But so you were talking about being understated, and this is one of the things that, so I made this one for my husband, and this means forever strong, and it wasn't about it being across his chest being forever strong. This was just like a little reminder for him, which is why I chose this, right under the pocket.
Yeah, you don't have to be bold with everything you do on a print. Prints can be subtle, prints can be, obscured. And in a lot of ways, that's really attractive to a lot of, especially of our male customers. You don't want a brand, or you don't want something loud, so you put something in a little bit more of an obscure placement, and it's precious, and it still has your mark, but it's not necessarily in your face.
That's great. Any other advice you have for us amateurs?
Do your research.
But that's a really cool one too. I mean, and it goes great with your brand, because I've read about how you guys started and you really stick with this certain era, but you have found so many things around that era. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were just talking about all the different fonts that are on the placards and things like that you can choose from, which are different from circus fonts, but you have so much there. And that's what's fun is you find one thing that you're about, like we were talking about triathlons, or an era where you can find quotes from that era to put on the shirt or something like that. So there's so much inspiration to be found when you have a passion and you found yours.
Exactly. Like if I was doing a triathlon shirt, like I might research, triathlon posters, flyers, tickets, see what kind of layout they've been using as long as the whole sport's been in existence, and see, maybe you can harken back to a certain style, or like I said, typography can be important. So these things add depth to your design. If you want to really nod towards a certain hobby or pastime, then maybe you can do some research and see if that hobby or pastime has actual marketing and advertising, and then maybe make your design kind of nod towards that.
And then you have that depth to explain to people. Like, that's the big cool part about it, right? When someone comments on your shirt, it's not just that shirt. It's really your nod to that era.
Where you found the inspiration from is really a good sales point or talking point when you're wearing a shirt, right? So you want to be able to say, oh, I just pulled this from anything. You want to be able to tell people that you did some research on it.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I really appreciate your time and being my first.
Anytime, Joe.
See you later.
All right.